And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-54436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, our great friend Dave Petzo will join us. We'll hear what he has to say concerning the tax reform and everything else. Of course, other big issues of the day, talking about the gas prices, what that means for the economy here in Idaho, and all things money. He's the host of Money Matters. He's been with us for many, many years, over 30, I believe. Dave Petzo joins us this morning. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good to have you with us once again.
Always good to be here, always.
So when we take a look at what we can expect from this tax reform bill that looks like it's going to pass, it's a little troubling, isn't it, when Brian Ross comes up with this story on Friday and the stock market drops by 300 points just based on a story of these Russian collusion allegations that Flynn's gonna throw the finger on Trump. It reminds me of that movie Wall Street. You ever seen that movie Wall Street?
I have seen Wall Street.
Not the second one, but
no,
the good one.
The good one. The really good one.
Right, where Michael Douglas has this whole list of people that he can hijack to influence the market. So let's start with the Brian Ross story and the impact it had on the markets. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a huge impact. We saw the market doing so well on Thursday with the tax reform news, right? That was part of it. And, I hate to point to one particular news item or not, but Thursday was driven predominantly by that simple fact. And we can maybe circle back and talk about the economy and GDP being raised and all, but as part of that effect. But still, that was a big effect on Thursday. Then we get to Friday, and the market's still chugging along okay, right? We're going to keep all those big gains we had on Thursday, and then, bam, we saw the market go down as low as from up to down 350 points. It did rally all day long back as the market kind of got its head about itself and said, hey, there may not be anything here. But the market is concerned, of course, if we have a constitutional crisis, if we have a president, his agenda is very, very strong, pro-business, and it would be very negative for the economy if Trump were truly in trouble here.
Right, but I mean, doesn't someone look at this like a critical thinking, and just because one guy went out on an edge and he was proven wrong, shouldn't there be some type of safeguards in the world that we live in? The old days when people would wait for the daily paper.
That's right.
Or something of that matter. We just seem to be overreacting. What was the psychology of that, do you believe?
Yeah, the psychology is that traders have a lot of profits for this year. Since Trump has been elected, the market has been on fire. And so the profits, they don't want to lose it before the end of the year. They want to lock in their good year, especially we saw this with tech stocks last week. It was a very strange week, Kevin. It really was. We saw the Dow have its best week of the year. Literally, the best week, including, again, with this Michael Flynn revelation, the best week of the year, and yet tech stocks represented by the NASDAQ were actually down for the week. That's such a huge differential. But you're seeing that, and the decline was led by tech stocks again on Friday. And so that, again, just kind of drove the market on down as people were locking in their profits, with tech stocks being particularly strong since Trump was elected.
Indeed. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So, are you worried about a bubble? I mean, we're at the all-time highs. We keep going on. And, just like everything, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. Let me self-report here. I mean, all good things have to come to an end, or do they?
Correct. They do. They have to have corrections, Kevin. So all good things, meaning life, growth of the world, they don't come to an end. They do continue. And I think that's the bottom line that's so important that people miss, is that, yes, we will have corrections, but it isn't over. It doesn't mean that we regress and we're going back to the dark ages, so to speak, or not necessarily even to be that hyperbolic about it, but how about something that we're just pulling back and we're going to live with less? And that has just not been the case for all of history. We get better and better. Companies get better. We have creative destruction, which means the companies that, make candlesticks go away and light bulb companies soar. And then we continue with that kind of evolution and technological advance. That has created a market where we do continue on and on. As far as a bubble, I don't think the stock market at all is in a bubble. Now, is Bitcoin in a bubble? Yeah. Are bonds in a bubble? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, sort of. They are certainly not offering good returns going forward. But this idea of a bubble where people try to call the top and it's going to pop and we're going to lose 50% in value, simply takes a bit of history where we have, situations like the tech bubble of 2000, the real estate bubble of 06, 7, in that area where we are taking those and we're trying to put it over top of a stock market that isn't cheap, but I don't think it's dear at all. And we're seeing the economy pick up, Kevin, and that's really the juice, if you will, the corporate profits with the possibility of repatriation of billions of dollars. It's all good.
But then you have the liberals saying this is a big sellout to big business and at the expense of small business. That's one issue. Of course, speaking of big business, we'll get back to this. There's a big deal going on in healthcare right now that CVS is looking to buy Aetna. And many people will say, well, this is a deal valued at $67.5 billion, and it'll be the first time that we see the Trump administration's thoughts on antitrust. I know they've been very critical of the Time Warner AT&T deal, the idea of these big mega companies. Now you've got people worried about this, saying that CVS would have too much power because, look, they'd have the pharmacy and they'd have the health insurance. How do you see this playing out?
I don't know. This is interesting because this is we're in a place now where we have Amazon, if you will, is like this giant Death Star going planet to planet and destroying all business there. And one of the things that most people feel is going to be destroyed is going to be, and maybe rightfully, is going to be going to the store, going to the pharmacy locally. So CVS, Walgreens are right in those crosshairs of where if they don't somehow come together or get huge, it's not hard to imagine them getting picked off and having our drugs simply delivered to our doorstep by Amazon. And that's so they're caught. CVS is trying to figure out how do we get big enough or different enough that we survive what inevitably will be a mail order business.
Sure, but then we would wipe out, I guess, the pharmacies. But I go to a local pharmacy. I go to Portico Pharmacy in Meridian, go see my friend Charles. He's a great guy, but isn't there something sacred? And let me just hit you with this. And folks, if you have prescriptions, if you go to a doctor, this should concern you. The healthcare deal unveiled would create an industry giant with over $240 billion in annual sales, with hand-in insurance, Prescription Drug Administration, retail pharmacies, and corner clinics. The company said the combination will save $750 million in costs and bring consumers better, more efficient health care. Now, Dave Petzo, you studied that great capitalist, my favorite capitalist, Andrew Carnegie, self-made man. They always talked about the means of production and where you produce something, you transport it, you sell it. He owned everything. That's what made Carnegie Steel so great. However, when we're talking health care and we're talking this great efficiency, there's something about a pharmacist checking a prescription locally. And maybe I'm back to, as you would accuse me of, the old horse and buggy guy at KIDO Talk Radio. But it just seems that, and again, here's the loaded question to you. And I'm going to jump under the table as I ask you this, because I already know what the answer is. Bigger, better when it comes to everything, or are some things like health and whatever a little bit more important?
No, I think it is more important, and I think that's part of the problem we have, Kevin. If I can digress for a minute, I think we have to understand healthcare a little differently than we do any other business. I think it's really important to understand that as we talk about things like the local hospital needs to be run by doctors who understand, or should it be nurses with doctors? Should it be accountants? And the answer is it's run by bureaucrats. And I'm not putting down any particular one, but that's the way it is, because bureaucrats understand what their job is. And the job of the administration of a hospital, administration of an insurance company, administration of a pharmacy is to make bureaucrats happy, because bureaucrats have the money. They are not trying to deliver a better service at all. And I think it's important we understand that when we go to the hospital, we find them asking us a billion questions. It has nothing to do with them giving better service or making sure they don't cut off the wrong arm or something. Some of that does, but the reality is, and I'm not saying all people that work in a hospital are like that. There's great people there. But administratively, it is simply geared to make sure that we get paid. And how do we get paid? We get paid when we make bureaucrats on Medicare and Medicaid and insurance companies happy. And that's the system we're in, not giving better service. So understanding when we look at these mergers and we see them trying to get bigger, is bigger better? better, you must get bigger. Is it better? No, it's not better. It's when your doctor sees you, cares about you, and is not practicing defensive medicine, is trying to make Kevin Miller better. This is what we need to do. But nowadays, you can't even do that, Kevin. To make the bureaucrats happy, you go in, and if you need some test or they're a little concerned, they send you off to a specialist in that area, even if they know what's wrong with you. And that creates a system where we overutilize, and we aren't really getting to the actual crux of the problem. And more doctors, we can't see as many. They can't see as many people because of all the bureaucracy. Understanding that helps us understand why all these mass mergers are occurring, so they can cross-pollinate and keep the bureaucrats happy and get paid.
Dave Petza with us here at KIDO Talk Radio. Now I'm looking at another story that I don't understand it, and maybe I never will. In a massive rebound from a 20% plunge last week, Bitcoin surged Sunday to a record high above $11,700. Now, I remember it was in the summer when Bitcoin was $2,500.
And it was up, 25,000% or whatever.
Right.
Then too. Yeah.
And our friend Phil at the Boise Tech Mall, he still has the only ATM with Bitcoin, and you can watch it go up, go down. And it is amazing to me that so many people are into this. This is such a great thing when in reality it could all go away. And we can talk about computers and puzzles and matching pyramids and such, but $11,000, almost $12,000 for some type of digital currency that you can get your computers to try and mine. It seems like one of those .com games that they started way back in the day, or Donkey Kong or something like this. Yeah. I mean, you're a nuts and bolts guy. You're a numbers guy. What is the phenomenon here?
I don't. If you actually, it's one of those. It's so strange a story. If you did a movie about this, you would never. It'd be like the Thursday night movie or whatever. Nobody would watch it because it's so unbelievable.
Right.
We're going to make up a currency. We're going to put it online, and a bunch of people are going to buy computers and try to mine it. Well, what is it? It's a digital thing. What do you mean a digital thing? Well, it's a currency. What can you buy with it? Well, some people do it, but it's basically used for drug dealers to transfer money because it's really hard to take bars of gold. And since you can't move more than $10,000 worth of stuff at a bank without filling out a form, it makes it really hard to launder. But this way we can push money around the world for illegal, nefarious activities. That's what this Bitcoin is. That's one of the main reasons or main drivers, other than people are going, I think it's going to 12,000 based on what? Nobody knows.
Well, some people
there is no value here.
Well, and here's the other one. They've cornered the market with Bitcoin because they believe that there are only so many Bitcoins around, and by the year 2020, all the Bitcoins are going to be gone, and therefore the value will even surge even higher with these mining things and such. It seems too good to be true.
I think so. It's a made-up thing.
Right.
Completely made up, with no backing of any kind, and yet people are scrambling and bidding for it. I have no idea. I don't understand it either, Kevin, but it seems to me like we're bidding for tulip bulbs here.
And the tulip bulbs continue to climb. It is...
They did for a while, and this is beyond my comprehension, certainly, as to why. I understand that the link chain or whatever they call that thing is a big deal. It is technology-wise. It's going to revolutionize the financial transactions of the world. It's going to help us in so many ways with cryptology and all those things. But I do not understand why this has anything to do with us creating a currency.
Well, and then they have more of these cyber currencies coming out.
Yeah. I'll be announcing mine next week. Petcoin.
You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And welcome back. Dave Petza with us as we continue on. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to Terry, formerly of State College, Pennsylvania. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, gentlemen. Ethereum is one cryptocurrency, and it had 4 founding partners. One of them was Microsoft. I don't think they're drug dealers, but maybe I'm wrong. But nonetheless, my wife put some play money into crypto some months back, and she's enjoying watching it go up. As she also realizes she could watch it crash and never live again. My son put money into crypto, again, play money, oh boy, 8 months ago, and he's mining it, and actually incredible, absolutely incredible. I don't want to sit here and talk about his business, but it's been fascinating to watch.
Well, do you believe it?
Do I believe it? I believe that every day large corporations are adding their name to the list of the people that will accept Bitcoin. So it's like, okay, here, let's just keep an eye on this. I think it's worth watching. To what degree, I don't know. What's the ultimate end? I don't know. So it's a watch and see for me. Other people are much more sold on the fact that the cryptos are going to become the new way of life. I know the governments hate it because it's pulling people out of their old financial system, and they don't like it. And there are those in Wall Street, big names in Wall Street, that think it's wonderful. There are big names in Wall Street that's like, it's going to collapse. It's a big bomb. It's going to blow up. Kevin, who knows? Who am I to say I know?
Well, now, wait a minute. You're always talking about the market blowing up. What about this cyber currency that a lot of people look? I remember when Bitcoin was at 2,000, then 4,000. Now it's up to 12,000. It just doesn't see. You know, we can talk about gold, and I know Dave Petzo is a big fan of gold, but
loves it.
But at least there's something there, as opposed
There's
to
a history there. Yeah,
right.
There's a history.
Now we can have Petzo coin, and we could say that's worth $100,000 because there's only 3 of them, and if you get people to buy into that.
I'm from the old school. If you can't hold it, you don't really own it. Put it in your hands. It's yours. You're in possession of it. But we'll wait and see. But nonetheless, Danelle Martinez Booth, she was a senior analyst for the Federal Reserve in Dallas, left a few years back. She's saying that the entire market is built right now. Everything that we're seeing, the increases, are all built on credit. And if it turns around and rushes south rather than continues upward, it's going to really hurt. Dave, would you remark on what she had to say there?
Well, I think that there is. You talk about a situation where there's raw speculation with nothing underlying. You get massive moves. What do we have like last week? Didn't we have a 20% move? Isn't that kind of how you introduced it? In a day. Yes. Went down 20%. So but again, this morning we hit all-time highs on it. So it is a very violent and I think you get that kind of a situation. I don't know about credit. I'm sure that there are people in it, but obviously it's not a leverageable asset in the normal sense, like stocks are or real estate. But it doesn't stop anybody from taking a loan on their house and throwing it into cryptocurrency. But there won't be margin calls on it the way there are with the stock market. So I'm not sure that being built on credit has any more danger to price movement than it won't be like the stock market because you have literal margin calls. When things go down, people's stocks are sold. Whether they want to or not, it is sold for them, and that adds more selling fuel to the fire. So those types of moves on credit are much more damaging.
Well, what she's referring to is it's the stock market is built on credit. In case I didn't make myself clear there, that people are pouring into the stock market with large amounts of credit.
Well, I don't see that really. We are at high margin levels, but nothing that would approach relative to GDP what we saw, for example, in 1999, which was clearly a classic tech bubble. I don't see that at all. We don't have larger, if you will, relative to value. The amount of margin is not that high historically at all, and would not indicate that we are imminently due for any kind of collapse. And by the way, one of the things that people are not aware of is that when we go back to not too long ago, right, in 2007, 2008, we had hedge funds that were at 7-8 times leverage. They don't get to do that anymore. That's not available to them. So margin rates versus what really is going on in the market are two different things. And those hedge funds are not able to get 8 times their cash from Goldman Sachs and others. So they can't do it. They're not being lent that money.
You know, you jump over into the economy, and I see over in California they're putting up military tents. So they're building military tent cities for all the homeless, and they're claiming that the number of homeless is unprecedented, even back when you go clean back to the Great Depression.
Well,
they've never seen numbers like this.
Terry, thank you for that. We appreciate it. Traffic and weather together. Terry Harry brings up a good point when we're talking about the homeless situation. And on one hand, you know, and you and I have talked about this for years, Wall Street exploding, but what about Main Street? You know, we have two separate entities. John Edwards used to call it two Americas. Where are we with this? Where, people talk about the trickle down, if you will, as the markets open up to record highs. When will that translate to folks looking for jobs?
Yeah. Well, the folks that are looking for jobs, obviously, Kevin, we understand that we hit an all-time high in job postings, which means the corporations in America cannot fill all the positions they have. There just simply are not people wanting those positions or are qualified for those positions. So we do have a disconnect for people saying, I need a job or I want, and I can't get a job. Yes, you can. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be insensitive, but people can work. As far as the homeless situation, the mentally ill, the people with chronic alcoholism, drug habits, and health issues that are on the streets, as you know, Kevin, you and I both know, we know each other well enough to know, how my heart feels about that.
Sure.
So I don't want to sound insensitive. This is something that I spend my time and treasure involved in. And that is just something that is very important to me, so I don't want to be insensitive to this. But we do not have programs where you put up tents and then suddenly people are going to find their life. The only way you can find life is to change your life and have a structured program of rehabilitation, spiritually and practically, and be able to get them the job skills, get them education, get them mental illness care, all of those things. And the bottom line is this, Kevin, it comes back to, if these people aren't loved back into existence by people that really care about them, they let them fail and come back and come back and come back until it sticks, then we cannot solve that problem. And this is a chronic problem. It's a growing problem, but it is not an economic problem. It simply is not. Jobs are available. They really are. We just need to get the people with skills out and in front of those things. And we are talking about things that where we do have tent cities of people in big cities. We have, I go to Seattle, which has got a massive problem, and they don't know what to do with it. We don't know.
Even a smaller city like Salt Lake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And Boise, for that matter.
But the homeless in Salt Lake, they're mean.
They're mean.
I got to tell you, they're mean in Salt Lake. A guy pulled a knife on me in Salt Lake.
Seriously?
Yeah, he was an entrepreneur, though. He was selling it to me.
Really?
I didn't have the cash on me. Thankfully, he didn't.
Yeah. You can buy this or I'll stab you with it.
Right,
Is that
he didn't
really?
gut me with it. I said that to my wife, and she goes, "Oh, you're a big baby." I go, "No, I don't think so."
No, that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but we there is a difference between Wall Street and Main Street, Kevin, but we are seeing that, and I want to give one more stat, and then I'll let you roll us out of here.
Hold on, I bless you for that. Thank you. Yeah.
But this stat is so important to understand, and this is the change that we have to see, and that's the wages side. We've been talking about the rich getting richer, but the reality is now that the bottom 25% wage earners are growing faster than the top 25%. That hasn't been happening, and it just happened. Now, I'm not saying that's happened for the last year. I'm not saying every month is going to be like that. But we're seeing this over transpiring now. It's a change. And if lower wages are increased, that's going to be a huge positive to lower income people.
You know what they're calling this? The Obama recovery.
Are they really?
I figured you liked that.
I love it.
Dave Petzo, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Would that be the in spite of Obama recovery?
Oh, you tell me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Kevin.
You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
Once again, I want to thank everybody from Idaho Chooses Life, an incredible banquet from Eagle Christian Church. Always appreciate Pastor Mark Post for allowing us to be there. David Ripley, Wendy Ripley, the gang. It was the largest event we've ever had, or they've ever had, and just one of my favorite events. We have a video, by the way, available. It's on my personal Facebook, Kevin Miller, and it'll be on the KIDO Talk Radio Facebook soon, and we'll have photos as well. But I just sit there and get inspired by people that understand what is important in life, saving, protecting children, number one, and never mind the vilification. By the way, we did see Pro-Life and Mrs. Pro-Life. Didn't get a chance to speak with them, but they're always there, and it was just a blessed event, and we just appreciate everybody coming out and supporting Idaho Chooses Life. We go to Holly in Caldwell with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Holly.
Hi, how are you?
I am living the dream. And you?
I just wanted to announce some more good news if it hasn't been already. But
hold on. I'd also like to say that when you're announcing these things on your Facebook page, you can always say, and listen for me on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. He always lets me on, and we always have the Bundy updates.
That's a good point. I need to start doing some reciprocal marketing, don't I?
That's the only thing that I ask, because we appreciate that.
Yeah, we need more people to listen to that. That's great. You're right. I'll go ahead and start doing that. I should have thought of that on my own. I don't know what I was thinking.
Otherwise, we're going to start charging you for that. But anyway, go ahead, please.
That's a good point. I shouldn't say announce. I did take communications in college. I didn't really think about that. Thank you for your PR update.
Well, look, it's only a matter of self-preservation, but go ahead, please, Holly.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's happening in Nevada and the Nevada case, and briefly cover, for people who haven't been following, that in 2014, when the BLM went out without a court order to gather the Bundy cattle, and now we're finding out that the grazing bill was only $8,800. So instead of just leaning their property, they went out with an armed SWAT team and started killing and burying their cattle. And so the Bundy people asked, the Bundy men who were not armed were all there asking people to come and practice their First Amendment right. And they did have signs up that said no guns and no alcohol. And at some point there were enough people that arrived that the sheriff said, hey, we're going to let the cattle go. So then 2 years later, they started rounding them up violently. Some of the Bundy men beaten at their jobs and held, have been not granted bail and been held in jail for 23 months. And now 13 days into the trial, because there's been so much misconduct by the BLM, FBI, and the conspiracy of the prosecution to withhold evidence, not provide it to the defense, they are now offering them pretrial release. And I think a lot of it has to do with Cliven Bundy suing the Department of Justice. It's possible, I mean, who knows, that they might even just drop this case. But the bigger issue here is we live in the United States of America, and people need to read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and realize that this is wrong, that politically appointed judges and people trying to accomplish their own agenda is not okay, that we have a right to fair trial, to bail, to access to attorneys even that have been persecuted in jail, and it's not right. And the American people need to know what's going on so that they let their legislators know, and we maybe try to make some reform in this situation.
Sure, and I agree with you on that. However, let's get to the other skinny, if you will, on this, and the idea that the government has invested too much in the prosecution of the Bundys. They're not going to let them out, number one, and number two, that if they did, this would this would be a license for everybody.
Well, I don't think it's a license for everybody. If you look at like Ferguson and the stock market, where people went there with the intent to actually hurt people and did, and then there were people who are actually just there practicing their First Amendment right. I know that the media has painted this out like this was a big, scary, but I think it was a lot different than that. And then when they let people from the stock market in Ferguson go because for whatever reason, when they actually hurt people, there was actually no victims except for the cattle and the Bundy family in Nevada. So I see your point, but it really is a whole different situation. And why in the world did the government have an $8,800 grazing bill, claim that it was $1 million, and they've spent over $100 million on this case if it wasn't about taking the private property of all the ranchers in Nevada? If you go on the Ammon Bundy Facebook page, you can watch the issue about the water.
Right, but on the other hand, you can watch American Standoff. Now, I've reached out to State Representative Dorothy Moon. You know her?
Oh, okay. Sure, yeah, I do.
She was down there, and I haven't heard back from her about this.
She was down there. She took Lisa down just to be there for the trial. They weren't expecting this to happen when that happened. I don't know if she's made it back. She may be waiting because they're releasing a lot of people in the next 2 days. I'm not sure if she's back yet.
She can't reply on Facebook?
Yeah, I do have her number. I can try to contact her.
Because she would give us some firsthand insight there. Not that we don't appreciate, Holly, your daily reports.
No, I agree with you. And plus, she's a representative, so it was great to have somebody like that on. And she had a third of the Idaho lawmakers that wrote a letter saying they were concerned about the miscarriage of justice in Idaho.
Sorry for trying to get a word in. Sorry for trying to get a word in edgewise here, Holly.
On your own show, I have a problem with that. I know.
Well, I think that's it for you today.
Thanks, Kevin.
No, thank you, Holly. So again, the Facebook site, if people want to go there.
They can go to the Ammon Bundy Facebook site. They can go watch for updates. The court won't start again until December 11th. So John Lamb or Kelly Stewart, they can go to bundydefense.com if they want to help with the legal fees.
Well, all right, Holly, I'm going to let you go now. Otherwise, you're going to continue to smack me around.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. I'm sorry. I have a tendency to just go on when I get a chance to talk.
There's nothing wrong with having passion, ma'am.
Thank you. And this is about the American people. This really is about changing things.
Oh, my gosh. Just take the compliment.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Holly, take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. There's a young lady, by the way, Holly from Caldwell, who has, along with Barb and Sunny Slope and others, kept this case alive. And if you're saying to yourself, well, I thought the government got the Bundys. They did. But then through people that have been donating legal defense, have been donating food and supplies and everything else, these families have kept going. It's one thing to fight the government. And like I said, this broad overreach brought on by the Obama administration when you had the Bundys at the, outside of Burns, Oregon, the Malheur Refuge. When you had, everybody locked up in prison. What's his name? Jerry, Jerry from New Hampshire. He's still in prison. He's got, and he's not a young guy. He's in prison for like 3 years because he pled guilty. And the government's trying to send a message. And this is the challenge. Here you have Ryan Bundy defending himself. You have these humble families that have become national figures. And regardless of whether or not you agree with the Bundys or not, the idea that they would be willing to put it on the line and sacrifice not only themselves, but their families. Where is that in America today? It's too easy to go watch Netflix, or it's too easy to do something else. That's the amazing part of it. And now that you have the judge releasing them, and I don't know if they're getting new people in the Justice Department that said, let's just let this case go away. Because in reality, it really should go away. No one wins in this case. Then you have the killing of Lavoy Finicum, that we still don't know. Here's the thing that I wonder, and this happened under President Obama. We were promised the most transparent government ever. And whether you're a liberal, whether you're conservative, why haven't they released the truck that Lavoy Finicum was driving in? And why do we have people being prosecuted for his death that's not being covered? Because it happened in Oregon and they have a liberal, progressive, oppressive press? Because people have gotten scared off, which I believe they have. I could say I've gotten scared off of the case. Look, when the government can come into your home, take you for covering a story, that's scary stuff. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I would like to hear about what you have to say next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And let's go to R&R with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, R&R.
Good morning, Kevin. I want to give you thanks and kudos for being the voice of reason again and keeping the Bundy and Finicum cause alive and well in the Valley. I'll tell you, my concern is I am of the same generation as Cliven, and I do understand tyranny and the fact that this was a land grab. And I really appreciated what he said a moment ago about why is it that the United States government would be willing to spend $100 million and bring all of these injustices to light. I'll guarantee you that it was a land grab, and there's huge amounts of wealth and vast reserves underneath that portion of ground, underneath the Bundy Ranch. And here's my concern. I've got several, we'll call them relatives because they married in the family. There's apathy among the 40-somethings. They just don't understand what the 60, 70 age group has gone through to establish their homelands and their homesteads and their little hovels as we came through Earth in this.
Well, you think the 40s are bad? Check out the 20s and the 30s.
Well, amen. I guess I'm just saying I expect more from boys that are men now raising. I've got one. I'll give him kudos, but he won't hear my voice because he's in Michigan. But he called me when this all came down. He's a patriot to me. But these are guys that are paying mortgages and going to work every day, and they just don't get it. It's Cliven's going to stay in there because he's a huge patriot, and he's got the stones to stay and stand his ground. God bless him. But I'll tell you, these 40-somethings, 50-somethings that didn't go through Vietnam or Korea, they just haven't got a clue what it's going to take to endure to the end. And I appreciate you and your voice and waking me up in the morning, and bless you in your endeavors. Thank you.
God bless you, my friend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. R&R with some heady thoughts here. 54 after the hour. Kevin Miller in the morning. Time for traffic and weather together.
Peter Strzok was removed earlier this year from the staff of the special counsel investigation after Robert Mueller learned that he had exchanged anti-Trump text messages with a colleague. Strzok has a long history with the Bureau, formerly serving as Deputy Director of Intelligence, and also took part in the FBI's interview with Hillary Clinton just days before former FBI Director James Comey announced he wouldn't be prosecuting the former Secretary of State from her email investigation. Sources are now telling Fox News that the Office of the Inspector General will now be looking at Strzok's role in the Hillary Clinton email probe. Jim McKay, Fox News.
All right, Jim McKay, thank you very much. Kevin Miller here at KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up, our great friend Chuck Ambrose will join us. Retired U.S. attorney, retired Air Force legal officer. We will get his thoughts on the entire Mueller-Flynn plea bargain, if you will, and we'll get his thoughts on that. Plus, the makeup of the Mueller's prosecutorial teams. Take a look at this. We've got, people that have been given money to Hillary Clinton. You've got this guy with the anti-Trump bias. Judges, law enforcement, they have to be impartial. They have to be non-political. And yet no one will talk about this in this effort to unseat the president. Now, earlier today, we shared a little about this, where people were saying the president's unstable, the president has to go. And whatever happened, if you can't beat him, join him. But we see this from the folks in Washington, D.C., not the folks here in Idaho, but the folks in Washington, D.C. that have decided that they cannot stop the president, especially if tax reform goes through, which is just the precursor to reforming, repealing, replacing Obamacare. So we come up with this false narrative. And here you have a young lady from the American Enterprise Institute, which is a conservative group. We're not talking about the liberal loons. We're talking about a conservative saying this.
We've had a lot of off-the-record concern from senators for quite some time. Democrats are giving voice to it. Republicans haven't. Will they?
I think Republicans are going to keep talking privately about the president, but I think it serves nobody to stand up and say, I think the president's crazy. He's the president of the United States. And that kind of thing is just, there's no political upside for Republicans, because then the next question is, okay, you think he's crazy? You think he's on drugs? You think there's something wrong with him?
You know, where is the proof of any of this speculation except with Joe Scarborough and other people that have been shunned by the President of the United States, rightfully so? Why in the world would you say that about the President? Like him or not, he's crazy like a fox. Like him or not, and I'm not a big stock market guy, look at the markets going through the roof. Look at people and their optimism about the country. Now, again, like a lot of things, you take a look at what's going on with the Bundy situation. Those guys would have no hope at all if you had Loretta Lynch or Eric Holder Part 25 in the Department of Justice. You know, how many times have we said this, brothers and sisters, over the years, that it's going to take us many, many years and many, many objective, if they even exist, objective historians that are going to say, look at what Barack Obama did to this country when we're talking about the leftward shift. Now, many of you lefties that listen to this program, because it's kind of like why I watch MSNBC, you can't get enough of it. You disagree. You talk back at the radio. I get it. I understand it. But you do this it's going to take years to figure out what happened to this country. And it's going to take someone, a disruptor like Donald Trump, to bring it back. And contrary to the popular belief that comes from the pulpit and everywhere else, I'm all about bringing America back. I'm thinking that the best days are not behind us, but we can't sit there and vilify the great historical figures that made America what it is and what it could be. And to call the president crazy is, well, that's borderline. I'll tell you about that next. Kevin Miller, Fox News next, on your home for Fox News on the radio, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.